San Francisco goes on the road and puts up a number. Plenty of chatter before, yes, during, and even after this game. But the final word goes to San Francisco, more specifically, Deebo Samuel. $116 through the air, another 22 on the ground. 3 total touchdowns as the San Francisco 49ers dismantle the Birds, 42-19. Back in studio, Joe Musso alongside Emery Hunt, here to pick this one apart, and picked apart is exactly what happened to what we thought was the best team in the NFC. Many thought that'd be Philadelphia, but we have a data point now to chew on from now until these two maybe meet again in late January. Emery, what stood out to you the most in the way that San Francisco was so assertive in dictating where and when this game was contested?
Well, they stopped the run, and if you're able to beat Philadelphia up along the line of scrimmage, you're going to win that ball game. Going into this ball game, all I talked about all week was the Eagles are probably the only team in the NFC that can match physicality with the San Francisco 49ers up front in the trenches. Well, they got manhandled today on both sides of the ball. The offensive line did a great job in protecting Jalen Hurts. They just played coverage. But on the defensive side, they could not get penetration. They could not stop the run, and they could not get these guys on the ground, whether it was McCaffrey or whether it was Deebo Samuel. Anyone that had the football for San Francisco found themselves breaking tackles and gaining yards in a chunk fashion down the field. So on the other side of the ball, the offense just couldn't stick with the run game. That's something that the Eagles usually hang their hats on, which sets up their play-action pass, which sets up their deep ball. None of that happened. So when you dominate the line of scrimmage, San Francisco did that. They out-physicaled Philadelphia in Philly, in bad conditions.
Yeah, this was Philly weather. This
is what they wanted. They get what you asked for, get it because you asked for it. Well, they got it this game from the 49ers.
Now, we will point out, they are in the midst of one of the toughest stretches on any schedule this season, the Philadelphia Eagles, but you got to show up for this one. This is what many believe will be a preview of the final 2 teams in the NFC, and it very well could be. And here a statement is made. We'll get maybe to what this means down the road, but I want to operate here in this 60 minutes of football, and Deebo Samuel deserves more than just a word here. 3 total touchdowns. We were talking about it a little bit in the green room. What does San Francisco do with Deebo that makes things so hard for opposing defenses? I mean, he could run it, he could catch it, you could line him up everywhere. The multiple nature of what you can do with him stresses a defense how? Well,
you answered it, because you can hand him the football, you could throw him a short pass, you could throw him a deep ball. He is the pace setter, for this offense. He sets the tone. He is someone that he's your jab offensively, and then he's also your overhead right hand, right? Because he is so powerful, he's so strong, he's explosive. This was the play that broke the game open, and when you have someone that's able to do that, that you can line him up anywhere on the field. It's a positionless game nowadays. We talk about that with regards to the defensive side of the football. But when you have an offensive player that can play anywhere on the field, literally any one of the skill positions, how do you game plan for him? How do you match up? Do you sacrifice a linebacker? Well, guess what? Someone's going to be open behind him. Do you sacrifice a safety? Now you got one-on-one receivers on the outside. Do you sacrifice 2 guys? Now you have one-on-one matchups wherever else on the field. So for me, when you have the ultimate chess piece, that's a game breaker, a legit game breaker, it makes it that much harder to defend.
We say it all the time about these top-tier targets. Somebody's got to get him the ball. And this was vindication in a moment for Brock Purdy as well. Injured the elbow in that title game a year ago and comes back and has just about as perfect a game as you could ask from him. I know there have been better passer ratings by Brock Purdy this season, but we're looking at 19-27 for 314, 4 touchdowns, and protected the football. What did this moment mean for Brock Purdy? And I think we're past the do you believe in Brock, but as you do project it across the remainder of this season, what can a win like this do for that confidence?
Well, he has the confidence because he went out there and performed rather well for his offense, but for everyone else around, because this was a talk coming in. Can Brock Purdy beat you throwing the football? And he beat the Philadelphia Eagles throwing the football when he had to make these passes on 3rd down, 2nd and long. He was able to make those throws. Remember, they started this game in a horrible fashion. -6 yards in the first quarter, and then they turned on the heat and put the gas on top of it in the second half and second quarter and throughout. So 4 touchdowns.
Look at this.
It's insane. Protecting the football, 11 yards an attempt. So he was throwing the football deeper down the field, and he was just finding the right receiver. It felt like every time he dropped back to pass, he knew where he was going with the football. He found an open receiver, and they found chunk plays. So he was able to make the plays that needed to be made. Wasn't a game manager. He was a +1 out there from how he played throwing the ball.
Yeah, this scheme allows for bigger windows than others do. That is not to discredit Brock Purdy, because he is executing in those larger windows, and we just saw the numbers. He has been consistently, spectacular throughout the entirety of this season. There's a lot to be learned about the Philadelphia Eagles in this moment as well. We talked about the physicality, but strictly from a numbers standpoint, a 23-point loss, the nature of the loss, does it bother you at all as you look forward for the Eagles?
Not at all, because, again, this is something you kind of need when you're on the road to success. This is something that we see in these NFL documentaries at the end of the season. Oh, well, we got this beat down in the middle of the year. We just talked about San Francisco getting beat down by Philadelphia in 1994, where Steve Young got benched because the Eagles went out the candlestick and beat the brakes off them 40-8. And what happened that year? San Francisco went ahead and went to the Super Bowl, one of the best teams that we've seen in NFL history. So this is the type of game that could force the Eagles to hit reset. Yeah. Maybe you got a little bit too high, and now it's time to get back on that grind and get back in those trenches and work like you did last year when no one believed in you. Now you're sitting from the front and sitting up top and leading from the front, and everyone is singing your praises, and now you have to get back down, get back to work, and get back out there on the field the next game. I know they can't wait until they get that next game opponent. I don't care if it's Dallas. I don't care if it's Florida State, because they're not in the playoffs right now. I don't care who it is. They're going to be out there ready to go and take it to that next opponent.
Emery Hunt still doing the chop. We chopped down an oak tree in this one. The San Francisco 49ers, one swing at a time. They take care of the birds. Let's take a look at that schedule for Philadelphia. Get a little bit more specific on it, because, again, coming out of your bye week, even going into it, a win over the Cowboys. You hit the bye, then you got to see the reigning champs, then you got to see the Bills, then you got to see the Niners, then you got to see the Cowboys again. In prime time, no less.
Then you got to see Tommy DeVito.
You do have to end up seeing Tommy DeVito. But as you look at 14 through 18 right now, what lies ahead of these Eagles? They're going to be mulling over this film for weeks. They're going to be finding the inefficiencies, not just for this Cowboys matchup, but for, again, a potential NFC title game matchup with this very same team. Where do the Eagles need to be better between now and late January if they want to again be the team representing the conference?
Well, here's the thing, Joe. When we watched the Eagles last year go on that magical run, the most impressive part of what they did last year was start fast. We haven't seen them really get out of the blocks like last season. So I think getting off to fast starts could help set them up for that long-term success. So when you face the Cowboys, it's about how you start that first quarter. We saw them start the game today very well, the first couple of drives, but they ended in field goals and not touchdowns. That was a big story because they buckled down inside the red zone and couldn't get the ball into the end zone. Against Seattle, we know that's a game that Seattle will look toward as their playoff matchup, because they need to win the rest of the way to get in. So you have to start fast in that one. So these next 2 weeks, we'll learn a lot about Philadelphia, whether or not we're going to see the same type of run that we saw last year, or should we temper our expectations moving forward?
It's a great point. When they're offering 6, you can't take 3, especially against a team like the San Francisco 49ers. Let's take a look at that playoff picture as it pertains to the NFC. And right now, a second loss for the Eagles. Yes, the 49ers, just a game off of them for that top overall seed, the all-coveted bye, home field throughout. The Lions, they come away with a win on Sunday, but again, for a third consecutive week, you walk away from it feeling, I don't know, icky? And if you want to talk icky, well, let's talk about the South, the Falcons, 6-6. With another team nipping at their heels in the division by a game in the Saints. Emery, when you look at this, the first thing that comes to mind, for me, I'm looking at that 5 seed. I'm looking at whoever's going to get the 4 seed. That's what captures my attention. But as it pertains maybe to the Eagles and 49ers, what did you learn here today?
No one wants to see the Bears, who are in the hunt right there, Joe. I see that in the graphic.
Don't pander to me.
In terms of the Philadelphia Eagles, I think you want to get the bye week, so you have to get that number 1 spot, because, again, 4 and 5 are teams that definitely have enough of a knockout power to catch you slipping one game. The Rams are coming along, and if you're the 2 seed in Philly, do you want to take on Sean McVay, who should be coach of the year, and what he's doing out there with a team that's scrappy, have a veteran quarterback, and they have a defensive player that is outstanding in Aaron Donald and Puka Nacua, who seems to be the next Jerry Rice out there on, Rams, next Henry Eller out there in L.A.
You know what they say, like in golf, they're all worth 1. Each shot is worth 1 shot, but situation does dictate intensity, and we are at the intense point of the season where it's all going to shake out on both sides of that playoff picture. More data points will be offered on Sunday night with an in-the-hunt team going up against one of the apex predators. It's all coming next. We'll get you set for Sunday.